That's for me.
All right, we'll get right into it then. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode number 6 of MudTalks Real Estate. And today we're talking title companies. So before we dive into anything, please tell me a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I'll start. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Jones with Liberty Title. Started Liberty Title 20 years ago now.
Oh.
Wow. And I didn't think I was that old.
You're not? What you talking about?
Right.
That was yesterday.
It must be the expensive foundation, right? Anyways, started the company to give people an option for closings anytime, any place, no extra charge. That's kind of our motto and the way we do things. So the typical person that works 9 to 5, if they can't make it into the office before 5, or we'll roll out to their house at 6, 7, 8 o'clock, sometimes 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Whatever works for the customer.
Okay. So you guys, I didn't, so you guys do after hours close. You guys do,
We
and you
sure
and
do.
it doesn't have to be at the location, at the office?
It does not have to be at the location.
Okay.
No. If you wanted to be here at your office, we could do it here at your office.
Oh, nice. You got options.
Yeah.
So 20,
It's nice to have options.
so 20 years ago it was started?
It started exactly 20 years
Oh,
ago.
my goodness.
and
Okay.
January 28th was our anniversary.
Oh, okay. Congratulations. That's
Thank
a long
you.
time. 2 decades in the game.
Right?
I was in
I
fifth
know.
grade then, too.
How long have you been doing this?
Title side, working for Amy, it was just 4 years in September, so it'll be 5 years coming up this September.
Okay.
As far as in the industry, I started out in the finance business do I have to say the year?
Yes.
Yeah, 1980.
Yeah.
Um,
I was born in 86,
yeah,
just
I
for
knew
reference,
that.
guys.
That's
Right.
exactly. I knew that was coming. But I actually went
He's
into
used to it.
I was
Yeah.
actually went into the mortgage industry, literally strictly mortgages in 1985, and had various roles. One of which was in the business development side, which is one of the reasons how I ended up working for Amy when she first started in the business prior to owning her title company. She had worked for one of my clients. I was a wholesale rep. So the business development side, which is what my role is here at Liberty. So it all worked hand in hand. But so 1985 was strictly the mortgages and been in it ever since.
So you've been in and around the game since the 80s.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
sure
right.
have.
That's a good run. That's a long time in the game. You know your stuff. You have to.
Well, I was a genius. Again, I started when I was 7.
Love it. So let me ask you this: what made you? So was the whole reasoning behind starting the company was to give people an option outside of the regular 9 to 5?
Yeah, I just kind of noticed that our competitors didn't really offer that service. And I thought, well, I mean, the average person works 9 to 5. How are they, they're either taking time off of work or coming into their lunch and they're rushed and stressed. And, it really has worked out well. We've done a lot of closings for, like, let's say doctors who can't leave for very long. So we'll just go straight to the hospital or wherever they work and
Oh, nice.
close them up there.
That's very convenient.
Yeah.
Okay. How was it getting it started? Like, where's your
Right.
background to get this company
so I
started?
was working for a title agency. I'm from the Cleveland area, so they were based out of Cleveland, and they were starting a Toledo office. So I was in charge of hiring, firing, training, and doing all that,
Okay.
and kind of just working day in, day out. Sometimes I wouldn't get home until 10 o'clock at night. And I thought, if I'm going to put these kind of hours in, I should be doing this for myself.
Yeah.
And especially I was, running and operating the Toledo market that they were opening. So all the business that was brought in to that prior title company was brought in by me. I was the salesperson.
So you were
running
already
that
putting in the
business.
groundwork.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was just kind of a no-brainer for me. I just think I was young enough, dumb enough. I was 26 years old.
Ooh, okay.
And I thought, I can do this,
Yeah. Ready to conquer the world.
Now that I'm 46, I'm like, whoa, the 46-year-old me is like,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. It was a good thing you did, though.
Yeah.
And sometimes that courage is worth more than anything, because if not, then you're too timid to get
Right.
into it. And look, 20 years now.
I'm always
yeah.
like, is it courage or stupidity?
Yeah.
I don't know.
A little
both.
mix. Yeah, a little mix is always nice. Yeah, it gets you far.
For sure.
Okay. And then what does your job entail? Like, what does a title company do?
So we are the disinterested third party that performs a title search on the home, finds out what liens are on the house. we also do commercial. So what liens are on building. And then we put together what's called a title commitment, and it tells everybody that we're doing business with, the realtor, the mortgage company, buyers and sellers, like, hey, here's what we found out.
Okay.
So there could be a lien on your property for anything. Most people don't know, if you don't pay your credit card company can put a lien on your house. If you don't pay a contractor, let's say, that remodels your bathroom, your kitchen, puts a new roof on your home, there could be a lien on there. You don't pay your child support, there could be a lien from child support. You don't pay your property taxes, those will definitely become a lien. IRS liens are huge. We see a lot of those. State of Ohio judgments. Seriously, a lien for almost anything that you would do financially that you don't pay can be on there. So when we're doing our title search and our due diligence, we're putting together that report. We're emailing it out to our customers like, this is what we found. One of the biggest things in training classes that I do is how to read a title commitment, because we find so many people don't read them. Like, we're emailing these out before closing, before closing. We get our title search together in a day to 2 days. So we're sending it out immediately, and your closing might not happen for 30 to 45 days. Well, customer will call us up and say, hey, we want to schedule this for closing. And we're like, well, what are we doing about, state of Ohio lien, IRS tax lien? We got, we have to make sure that there's enough money and everything is paid. Well, I didn't know that those liens were on there. And I'm like, oh.
It's kind of like the terms and conditions that you just scroll through and you're like, accept. Now what's next?
I think they just get it and they're like, check, we've got title work, but they don't actually read it.
So here's a question. What does
Not you, of course. I know you do.
No, you know me. What can a lien? And so we talk about these things so often that we kind of lose focus, that some people don't know exactly what these things do. So what's the big deal if there is a lien on the house? What exactly does that cause?
So what happens is that seller has liens on the property. Let's say they're selling the home for $150,000. Well, if their liens are more, let's say their mortgage payoff is $90,000 and they've got, $50-some thousand in lien, there might not be enough room that seller could have to bring money to the table in order to sell that home.
Gotcha.
If they have too many liens on the property.
So does the lien have to be paid off in order for that closing to occur?
It absolutely does. Yes, because we're guaranteeing free and clear, that there's no liens on the property when that new buyer steps in and owns the home.
Okay.
So
what happens if somebody, let's say, try to sell their home and they were unaware that there are liens on there?
That does happen. Sometimes they're hearing from us, that you've got this lien, and they're like, I never even knew I had that lien. I always think to myself, there's no way, because they're getting mail, they're getting hounded by phone calls of, you owe this bill, but it does happen.
Sometimes people aren't aware that. So if that lien's on there, and just to use super round numbers, let's say you have a $100,000 house and there is a $50,000 lien on the house. If I go to sell that house for $100,000 and I'm thinking that's all coming to me.
Right. You're getting that profit.
I'm getting $100,000. That can't happen unless that lien is paid off at $50,000.
That's right.
That's correct.
And it cannot switch over into anybody else's name without that being paid.
Without that being paid, yes.
Okay.
I mean, we have lost deals for that reason, and the person didn't end up selling their house because there just wasn't enough money, and they didn't have enough money to bring to closing to pay them.
That's why we strongly recommend for agents, especially new ones, learning if you're going to list a home, is in your interview process, you're going to ask, is there any potential that you may know of? Some may say, yes, I have this problem. I'm worried about it, and that's when you'll reach out to us and maybe do an early search on it.
Yeah. Yep.
Pre-start, we call it. And then there's others that just don't remember, or something happened several years ago and they forget all about it. And, sewer lines were put in and they forgot that that's been now put on to their home.
Okay.
Things like that. So
right. So that what he's describing would be an easement to the property. So that follows with the title work. We have to disclose that, somebody has a right-of-way easement to the property.
Okay. And so does it have to be the seller that pays that lien? Is it, or let's say we have a buyer who eagerly wants that property. Is there any way that the buyer can facilitate with the payment of that lien?
as long as the buyer wants to pay, that is a great question.
Yeah.
Because I've never had that circumstance happen. Like nobody's ever said, well, I'll pay.
Yeah. I don't think so. I've never either. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, I assume as long as it gets paid.
Yeah.
That's the
Okay.
bottom line.
Yeah.
Just not having
It just has to be
up.
free and clear title. So.
Okay. And then that whole transaction would happen during the closing, right? So
Right.
the lien would be paid. Everything gets done at that closing table.
Right.
Whoever is holding that lien would get paid. Seller would get paid or break even or whatever the case is with the seller, and the
Right.
buyer would bring the funds. And everything would be done as one transaction during
That's
the closing?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Would be done
And that's
on
our
closing
job to
day.
follow up getting those paid.
How are liens recorded on a house? Like let's say I had some work done on my house and I did the windows and I didn't pay the contractor.
Mm-hmm.
That's between me and the contractor. How would anybody else find out that I owe this contractor or the house owes this contractor money?
I assure you that the contractor will go down to the courthouse and file a lien. Not hard to do.
Yeah.
It's a
It's
really
very anybody could file a
Easy
lien.
process.
Really?
Yep. You just
Okay.
you go down to the recorder's office in that county. So we're in Lucas County. So in Lucas County, it's one government center downtown. Recorder's office is on the 7th floor. They just take their stuff up that elevator to the 7th floor and file that lien.
Very
Okay.
Easy, very easy.
All right. And then that lien is put in place so that if somebody did do the work on the home and they were not paid, which is unfair for them having completed that work,
Right.
just so that whenever the sale of the house were to occur, since he put in those windows and he did the work, so that he's getting paid for the work that he did. That's
Right.
That's
basically
exactly right.
the
Right.
point of the lien in that case, right?
And they know
exactly
they're not
right.
going to get paid immediately, but
Yeah.
at some point in time, that
If-
homeowner is going to want to do something with their home, whether it's a refinance, because a refinance we would have to pay that off too. So
Okay.
let's say he, that homeowner down the line wanted to do a refinance. Well, we're going to do a title search for a refinance, and we're going to see, oh, he didn't pay for those windows.
Oh, you
So
guys
then
do
we're
it for
gonna put-
refinancing
yeah,
too.
for
Oh,
refinancing
Okay.
too.
because the lender is putting a lien on the home
and
is
wants
gonna
to
want
be in first
that
lien
to be
position.
clean.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So lien position is date of filing. So let's say that contractor for the windows went and filed that lien today,
Mm-hmm.
and then the homeowner wants to refinance his home next week.
Mhm.
We will do the title search and see, oh, he owes money to Window World. That's first lien position, and no bank's going to lend unless that's paid off in full because they want to be in first lien position, which means they have the first right to foreclose on that home and get their money.
Gotcha.
If the buyer doesn't,
Okay, so it goes in
the
order by
homeowner
that
doesn't pay.
date.
With the exception of federal or state, if
That's
they'll
true.
go first.
The
Okay.
IRS is always number
Oh, they
one.
they always go
It
first.
don't matter how
Yeah.
far
Absolutely.
behind they are on the others, they go first.
They go
That's
first.
so true. My mom always said the only two things you have to do in life is die and pay taxes.
Yep.
And that's the truth.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. What if let's say somebody were to get that kind of work done and immediately before they even had time to file down, the owners went to sell the house. You guys would not be able to pull up a lien because it's not in the system yet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So then this new person purchases the house free and clear. When they go to sell the house, is that going to be a lien that is now their responsibility to pay?
So, one of the forms we have signed,
Mhm.
and I know you've been to a few of our closings, and I'm pretty sure most all title companies, but speaking from ours, is an owner's affidavit. And the owner's affidavit states on there, and there's different examples, that you know of no other liens or potential liens at this time. And it's
Okay.
an affidavit. And they're stating that. And usually we will give reference to, for example,
Mhm.
you've had work done on by a contractor that you haven't paid them yet, so hopefully it triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say, no, there's no potential liens, and they sign that affidavit, we find out that that's turned up later,
Mm-hmm.
we have the ability to exercise that form
Okay.
and go back to that seller.
Good. So that
An example of that is we had, if you remember a couple of years ago, there was a gentleman that sold a home, and it was the sewer, the easements that came in, and they attached to the piping, okay? And that was done, 6-8 months prior to all this sale. No bill yet, it hadn't been applied, but in fact it was there, and he signed a form stating that was his responsibility. We find out after the sale that it was attached, and we then exercised that form, and he had no issue with it. He had to pay that lien
Right.
off.
He knew it was his. And
Yeah.
He said,
he
"I
knew he had to
apologize,"
pay.
which I mean, it happens.
I'm sure.
I'm sure you could forget.
Yeah, 100%.
So
But it would go back, so it wouldn't fall just solely on the new owners who had no idea about this loan. It would be
No.
traced back and go back to the original.
that's where the title company and what we have is the title insurance. That's what we do. So therefore, it comes to us. It's on us, and then
Okay.
we exercise what we have to do. What plan of action we have to take. So yeah,
Okay, so first and foremost, it would fall on you guys.
Yes.
So-
we're the
so-
ones tasked with the responsibility to make sure that gets paid.
we
Is-
were,
and
we
is
were
that
paid
part
for the
of-
services to make that happen? So we have to honor that, of course.
So, and when you say those services paid, that's the title insurance we're talking about, right?
Right.
So when they're paying for title insurance, that exact same scenario, you're protecting in case something comes out in the future that wasn't there at that point.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then let's say X amount of years later it comes out, you guys take care of it because they've already paid for that title insurance. So it's
Right.
part of what they're getting. So they're getting future protections as well in case anything comes up.
That's why the examiners are really, really important to us. A good examiner.
That's right.
Yeah.
A good examiner means the world to us.
And we have it.
We do.
So what does the examiner do?
Does the actual search.
They do the search and they
records.
Yep.
okay,
So
gotcha.
they have to go back 42 years
Yep.
on the property.
42
42
years?
years and see any liens, make sure that they are all disposed of properly, which means, paid in full and taken care of. And so that way that the new buyer coming in
Mhm.
isn't left with somebody else's,
Yeah.
because they expire after that point. So there's no
Gotcha.
sense in going back further than that. But it is a lot of research.
That's a lot of 42 years.
And those
Yeah.
examiners are self-employed too. They are contracted out to title companies because they have their own
Okay.
E&O insurance. Because if they miss, and we
Right,
go,
it's
we
their
have to go
responsibility.
again. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then okay, so let's see.
That's
We-
good questions you're asking, by the way.
Yeah,
People
because
don't
Thank
so
know.
much
Yeah.
people don't
It's just like,
realize
we're just
that
gonna
goes
go
into buying
sign
and
the
selling.
papers and be done.
Well, it's like the terms and conditions. Most people are like, "Where do I sign?"
Yeah.
Let's like get this out of here and keep going. But they
Right.
don't realize the work that's going into it and the protection that they are signing for themselves.
Right.
So, and like you said earlier, so you get the commitment to realize, hey, there may be these liens. What are we doing with it? But they didn't sit down and actually go through what that says.
That's exactly right.
And that's why it's crucial to kind of go through that, find out what you're dealing with, because if not, you don't find out until right before the closing, and then you can't make a closing happen because you have to
Exactly.
take care of that, and it hasn't been talked
That's right.
about, and it ends up becoming a bigger deal because it
That's right.
wasn't looked at when it was a small deal.
That's
so
exactly right. And I do
Oh.
kind of have a horror story that fits in well right
what?
now.
What? I want to know. I want to know.
All right. So a buddy of mine wanted to buy a house. His name's Jerry. So Jerry calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I want to buy this house. I'm going to use it as investment property. But I know the guy selling it. And he says there's nothing on the title, that he doesn't have a loan on it. He doesn't have a lien on it. So I don't want to buy that title insurance stuff." And I was like, "Jerry, I would never buy a house without title insurance. Here's the reasons why, blah, blah, blah." I go into my whole spiel of why it's so important. He's like, "No, I mean, if you think I should, I will, but I just don't know. I mean, I know the guy. I've known him 20 years. He wouldn't lead me wrong." I'm like, "Okay." So we do our title search. There was a $30,000 mortgage from Fifth Third Mortgage, Fifth Third Bank rather, on the property. So I called Jerry up and I'm like, "Hey, that buddy of yours that said it was free and clear, he's got a mortgage on it." Now, his buddy wasn't trying to defraud him.
Mm-hmm.
He thought it was on his primary residence. He didn't know it was on his investment property also. So he wasn't really trying to mislead him, but that would have been Jerry's $30,000 mortgage
Mm-hmm.
if he just said, "Hey, let's just do a quick claim deed. I just want to buy this property, not do a standard closing, not do title insurance. He's just going to quick claim it to me. How much will you charge for the deed?"
Oh my!
That's what would have
goodness.
happened. Congratulations, you just bought the house for $30,000 more than you should
How-
have.
Right?
How much? What are normal closing title fees on a property? And I know it's going to vary depending on the price. So just to use rounder
Yeah.
numbers, let's say $100,000 or $200,000 house,
Okay.
somewhere in that range. And obviously, this is an estimate. Like
Yeah,
we're not
yeah,
giving
no
any kind of
problem.
exact
You're gonna
numbers.
hold me to
yeah,
this?
yeah. No, we're just an estimate about what an average would be for the closing costs, or excuse me, not the
Yeah.
closing costs, for the title company fees that would be involved there.
Yeah, I'm going to do basic with
Uh-huh.
$100,000 purchase.
Okay.
So title insurance is based on the sales price of the property. So on that size property, title insurance is $5.75 per thousand. So it'd be $575 for the title insurance. So title insurance is like a one-time paid fee. It's not like your homeowners where you're paying it, annually or monthly. You're paying that one time, and it protects you from the entire time that you own the property. And even afterwards, it still protects you after you sold it if anything were to come up. So that's the $575. Then there's a closing fee and an exam fee. So that the closing fee is the person that sits there and explains all the closing documents to you at closing. And then the examination fee is what we pay our examiner to examine the title. So those three things are the main. So on a $100,000 amount, purchase amount, you're looking at about $1,000.
Okay.
So then it goes up from there. If you're buying a $200,000 house,
of course,
then,
yeah,
it's higher than.
So $1,000, I will call it an investment, can save you from potentially $30,000 in the whole of not knowing what was on that house.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and this is a one-time fee. You pay it at the closing, and you are now protected for the life of you owning that home.
Absolutely. And even after. So once you sell the house, if something comes up, you paid that title insurance, you're good.
So you guys cover that, and that would fall again on you guys because they paid for the title insurance.
Because they paid for the title insurance.
So
that's right.
Automatically, it kind of alleviates them from having to worry or do any of the work, basically.
Yeah.
Like they have a whole team working for
Behind
them to
yeah.
take care of anything that would come up with that house.
Right.
Exactly
And
right.
things come up all the time. So, people say, well, I'm not going to pay this. That's a waste of money. Things really do come up all the time. We deal with it every day in our office, every day.
So I have not a client of mine, but a friend of my clients kept asking me about a house that he wanted to purchase, and they wanted to do a quitclaim deed with it. And I advised him against it. I told him all the reasoning why. And he's like, no, but it's okay. Like, I trust this person. It's not a big deal. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, you just don't know, because maybe they don't even know.
And then that's the thing. Like this guy that didn't realize that lien was even on his home.
Yeah, like so it's not even that it's intentional. They can have the best intentions in the world, but if they're unaware that there's something else on there, like that's going to fall on you.
Right.
And just looking at it, and you can look at the county websites and see what the taxes are on the house and everything.
Right.
Yep.
And so the house owed $6,000 in taxes, and I was like, just immediately, I'm like,
there's an issue.
yeah,
there's an issue.
Yeah, like something.
They're not paying their bills. What else are they not paying?
That's the start of it.
Yeah, and
typically that's an eye opener.
And that's what I told him. Like, look, just like this is just me. I don't do this for a living. Like, this is not my job. But $6,000 that they owe in taxes, I don't know what else could be going on with that property. Like, you should 100% go to a title company, because worst case scenario, if something pops up later, like we said, the title insurance is going to cover you. And even let's say if it was $5,000, you're paying $1,000 for $100,000.
Yep.
I'm just keeping it in that range.
Right.
And you're protecting. Even if it was $5,000, that $1,000 is going to save you from $5,000. Like it's even for people who don't think 5,000, it's not that much. It's 5,000 is a lot of money, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, if $1,000 is saving you from 5,000 ahead, like, that's a big savings. That's a good investment to make.
And Voldy, one of the other things that if they were just to do that, here's state taxes. So a lot of people aren't intentionally trying to defraud anybody. And they may not have paid, maybe they have state taxes they owe, and they just think, well, I don't need to get into it with him about that. That's my own personal, I owe taxes to the state. I've owed back taxes for 10 years. Well, little do they know that they probably do know, I should say, that that's accumulating, because there's penalties and all that. They don't realize that that's liened on the property. So when we do a title search, and if you were just to go ahead and take a quitclaim deed and find out there's $25,000 in state taxes, that goes to the property. It still goes to the client that owes them, but it attaches to that property. There's another example.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't realize, I didn't realize my state tax debt is going on my property.
Yeah, and they might
just
not
don't know it.
realize that. I mean, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So someone can say, hey, I have no liens, and they don't realize they do.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's not
Okay.
like an intentional thing, but it happens.
Yeah,
Sure.
and,
A
and,
lot.
yeah, that's not the thing. It's not even about, and that's why I feel bad when people are like, "This is my friend.
Yeah.
They're not gonna screw me
Yes.
over." I
I
100%
get
believe
it.
you. That's not
Sure.
that's not what I'm worried about.
That's right.
I'm worried
Right.
that your friend doesn't even know.
That your
like,
friend doesn't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
what research did your friend do to pull up if the
Right.
title is clean?
Right.
You know,
That's right.
and so how do you even do that? Because you guys have
Yeah,
an
the
examiner,
average
right?
person doesn't
That-
know how to
Yeah.
look up public records for that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
go back that many years.
Right.
Yeah,
And even
like-
with how good our Lucas County is with Aries, not all things will show on that website.
No. So like, and that's not. We're not dedicated to doing that, so we don't know how to actually research. I'm saying me, or as a person, you know what I mean.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know how to look back 42 years and
Right.
research. I don't even know what I'm looking for. I just know how to look for the taxes. Like that's it. That's all I got. I got nothing else. So like, I would have no idea how to research any of that. So the average person, so you selling your house, they don't know how to do that. You don't know how to do that.
Right.
Pay somebody the money to do that
does
research
that
for
on a
you.
daily basis
And
knows
worst
what they're
case,
looking for.
The very worst case scenario, they find something, right? Actually, either scenario is actually good. So they find something, you know something's going on, and you don't invest into a property where you would owe more than what you're thinking on the property. Or B, there's nothing wrong with the property, and then you have peace of mind, and you have the insurance to move forward and know that you won't have any problems in the future.
That's right.
So
Yes.
either way, you're coming out winning in that scenario.
That's right.
So it's okay.
Correct.
So that's a big advocate for.
Big advocate
and
of
it's-
title insurance.
Yeah.
and remember, it's a one-time. So
Yeah.
you pay auto insurance reoccurring monthly
Yeah. I pay every 6 months.
in hopes
No.
in
It's
hopes
cheaper.
in hopes
That's
of
right.
I mean, but you know what I mean. It's ongoing in hopes
Yeah.
of never using it.
Yeah.
I mean, you really
Right.
don't want to use it.
You don't.
Yeah.
Here, it's a one-time. It's done and over with, and you know you're good going into that property.
Yep.
I mean, I don't.
Gotcha.
I'm going to buy us all buttons that say I love title insurance. We're going to
Yeah.
wear them around the office. Like Flo.
And
I'm
it'll
progressive.
blink.
I love insurance.
Okay. So there's the title commitment. What are the steps once? Let's say I get a house under contract.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to send you guys the information on that house.
Right.
I'm
You're going
gonna
to send
send
us the
you-
purchase agreement. As soon as we have that purchase agreement, we can do our title search.
Okay.
Title search takes 1 to 2 days, and we can get you the title commitment,
Okay.
which shows you any of the liens that we may have found on it. Also, a huge thing I want to talk about today is deceased owners on the property. Because lately, it seems like we have a lot of deceased owners on the property. So you as the realtor, when you're going to meet with, let's say you're meeting with Dorothy, and Dorothy's husband passed away. William is no longer with us. That should be a red flag immediately. I need to call my title company and find out, how do we dispose of William's interest in this property? Because 9 times out of 10, probate hasn't been started, and that is going to be a huge delay. So if you're writing your purchase contract for 30 days, forget about it.
Okay.
It's not happening in 30 days
Gotcha.
with William deceased still in title.
Okay.
So that's a huge one. Where I swear I've got 3 files on my desk right now where the realtor's like, hey, I got to close this. We're scheduled to close. And I'm like, oh, what are we doing about the dead person on title? And there's been no probate started. So then we're referring it to our attorney friends to get this done. But there's no quick version of probate. When you're meeting with judges and attorneys, they're not moving quick.
There's no fast version of that.
There's no fast pass.
And
No,
and
not at all.
And not to
I would pay for that.
not
I
to,
would too.
Not to jump all over the side of wills. I mean, we're not here representing that. That's
Mhm.
one of the reasons that it's important. If you are a homeowner, for example, is to get a will or some sort of a life. The certificate that can be filed. So because if it gets into the probate, like she said, there are other ways if it's protected. If you've done your due diligence, like I said, the will.
Yeah.
And that, but again,
Or
Right.
trust. A trust would be a
of some sort.
faster
Mhm.
version of that. I think you
And-
can skip
and
probate.
Yeah,
It's
you
not
can.
legal advice. I don't know anything, but
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
We're not,
He is
yeah.
not giving legal
No,
advice.
no,
I
folks.
think
no,
that's-
no
think
way, shape, or
Neither
form.
am I, or
But
done.
but
I'm not
but
either.
if you talk to your
But I'm just
attorney,
saying.
you can ask him
That's
about
right.
that. But I believe a trust would be immediate possession for the
Yep.
next person, and you don't have to go through the whole probate
Yep.
court or
These are
anything
just
like that.
suggestions as being a homeowner, since that's
Yeah.
what we do for a living. But
Yeah.
Right.
so
Another way is if they took title on a survivorship deed, which means the surviving spouse has the right to sell the property and avoids probate. But honestly, a lot of times when we're looking up these deeds, they didn't take title on a survivorship deed. They might have a general warranty deed or a quitclaim deed. That does not extinguish the deceased person on title's interest to the property.
What are these different deeds? What?
I know there's so many different kinds of deeds.
So so general
Where
warranty
are my notes?
deed.
Dang
Yeah. What we generally see is the general warranty deed.
Right.
That's what we want to see.
Now that's fine if you're taking title as a single person.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are married or just taking title with your girlfriend or boyfriend, not a smart idea.
No.
Because there's multiple people that have interest in that home. And what happens if somebody passes away? You know, you're now stuck with going through probate, and that means money, and that means time, and that's
Time is
and
the most
all could have been
important one,
avoided if you knew the differences between deeds and asked for a survivorship deed.
Okay.
Now, at Liberty Title, we immediately put people that are taking title together on a survivorship. They don't even have to ask.
Correct.
Done. That's happening.
Okay.
That's for their best interest.
Right.
And who does this apply to? I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Anytime you're buying a property with someone else.
With someone else.
It
So if
doesn't
there's
even have to
two
be your
people.
spouse.
people.
Like, let's say you and
Okay.
your buddy want to buy investment properties.
Uh-huh.
You take title with your buddy. Unfortunately, your buddy passes away. What happens? Now you own the house with somebody that's no longer with us, and we have to expose of that interest. So if you
So that's where a survivorship deed would mean that the
it
full ownership
circumvents-
of the
The
house would go to
The
me.
surviving person
Yes.
obtains the property.
Okay.
right.
And what's does that cover the same as a general warranty deed? So like does it aside from the survivorship where it would transfer to the surviving person, does it also cover everything else that a general
it covers
warranty?
everything that a general warranty deed would and more, because
Gotcha.
if you're in title with a spouse, significant other, friend, and they pass away on a general warranty deed, probate has to be opened.
Okay.
So that's, like I said, money to the state, money to attorneys.
So you guys are at least quick to catch it when it comes in and there's multiple people that you guys automatically are going to jump to survival. What's it called?
Survivorship deed.
Survivorship deed.
Yep.
And general warranty. Are those the two most common ones
Those
that
are
you
the
guys
two most common.
see?
Now there's a quitclaim deed that warrants nothing about the property. It's spelled quit, but it might as QUIT, but it might as well be quick because it's just the quickest, easiest, cheapest deed to get, but it gives you nothing as far as any kind of warranties on the property, nothing.
Nothing at all. So what? So if you sign a quitclaim deed, it basically just says this person is now responsible for the house
For everything
everything.
that comes with this.
and everything that comes with
That other
it.
individual signed off complete
Okay.
any ownership or interest in the property.
Right.
Okay. So you can, if you owe a bunch of money on the house and you know it, you probably don't want to go through a title company to avoid it. Are there
Right.
people who do quick? Have you guys ever
I'm
ran into
sure
any
a
scenarios?
lot of investors will only offer when they're selling
Yeah.
a quitclaim deed. They'll say, "We'll sell you this, but it's on a quitclaim deed."
So that's a red flag. That's automatically something is going on with that property.
Or they don't want to warrant. They don't want to have any skin in the game, if you will.
Gotcha. And then the problem with that becomes that everything is now your responsibility, and so
Yes.
then the only
better be
way
getting
that
it
you
at a
would be
good
able
deal.
to, yeah,
And you better
yeah,
have a title company making sure that there's,
yeah. If
no-
you
no
ever try to
liens on
sell it
there.
in the future, you're gonna run into problems.
yes, you won't be able to
So-
sell it without
Losing
clearing up.
money.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that's owed on the
Correct.
house. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, we veered off, so let me go back.
did, sorry.
Sorry, no, that's okay. Okay, so I turn in paperwork to you. You guys do the title commitment. That's the first thing you guys do. You want to try and resolve any liens that might be on the property,
Right.
right? After that, what's the next step that goes on your end?
So the next step after that, really, we're kind of just waiting. If there's a lender on the clear to close.
Okay.
If it's a cash deal, then we're just waiting for them to say, "Hey, we're ready to close on this."
Okay.
Then the last piece of what we do is we explain the closing docs at closing. So we're the ones that show up with our notary stamp and say, sign here,
Okay.
initial here, and notarize it all. And then we're in charge of dispersing the funds. So if there's a bank involved, a lender involved, the lender will wire us all the money for the house. And then we're in charge of paying off, if there's liens on the property, which the typical lien is the mortgage company, that the seller's got a mortgage on the home. Then we're making sure that whoever that mortgage company is paid off through the proceeds of the sale. We're making sure that the realtors get their commissions. We're making sure that the homeowner's insurance payment gets paid. So really we're in charge of dispersing all the funds.
Okay.
And then we record all the documents with the county afterwards. So this, after you leave that closing table, our work as a title company is not done.
Yep.
We have to record the deed, the mortgage, make sure that those are all of public record, that, now Mr. Smith owns the home.
Okay. All right. So you guys still have more work to do.
Absolutely.
Even before we get to that point, at the closing table, there are like 500 million thousand papers that are at every
Or
close.
at least 80.
Yeah.
But
Like a
it
rough
feels
estimate,
like that.
just a rough estimate.
Feels like
There's at least 2 trees.
That's exactly.
So, but there's a lot of papers, and my clients come to this closing table. Most of them, well, not most of them, but some of them have never done a closing before.
Sure.
And so they see this big stack of documents. They get
They're
nervous.
immediately like,
Why?
is that?
Why? You guys sit and tell them how do you guys know? There's, like I said, there's so many
we
documents.
see these documents in our sleep.
Yeah.
This is how
They're-
much we look at these documents.
But-
I can seriously not even, besides the settlement statement,
Yeah.
I have to look at that one, but I can slap down a mortgage, a note, and
Yeah.
verbatim just say what it says.
Oh my goodness.
But it's
yeah.
it's like anything else. Something you do over and over and over again, and sometimes we get a little surprised because some loan packages, lenders will have different disclosures in there that it's meant just for their sake. And it's
Okay.
not like the common
CYA?
stuff. Yeah, the CYA stuff. Yeah, that's what we call it.
Mm-hmm.
The feel good stuff.
I know what that
not
Yes.
not the
Yeah.
needs, the wants, not
Yeah.
the needs.
Yeah.
But for the most part, though, it's general. Some loan packages, as you've probably experienced, are larger. There's more disclosures, and that's really what the loan packages are all about. It's the note and the mortgage and the closing disclosure, which is where your money's being spent. 3 most important items.
Okay.
Right.
The rest are just things that each lender wants. The signing the loan application.
I call those the fluff documents,
Yep.
and that's
Okay.
the easy part of the
Yeah.
closing. Like,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. there-
sign here, sign here, sign here.
And it also, so the thickness of the stack of papers changes also depending on the type of, if they're doing a loan, the different type of loan. Because I notice when it's cash, there's not as much.
That's
there's not as
right.
many
There's like
documents.
5
There's no
documents
loans.
Yeah.
instead of
No.
80.
Yeah.
You're right, Cash. VAs happen to be a little bit larger than most because the VA has a lot of disclosures, federally insured loans.
Right.
So
They've got about 10 of their own papers that they want signed for the VA.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Okay. And then, cash, I see a little stack because you don't have to go through all
no loan
the
papers.
loan papers. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys will then tell my client everything they're signing and kind of go through these things with them, get down to the final numbers to clarify. Then if there's a lender involved, you guys have a double check system where you guys have the lender's net sheet and net numbers, and then you guys have your own version. Very
Right.
different, but the numbers are always the same.
The settlement statement
Yes.
versus
Yeah.
the closing disclosure.
There we go.
Right.
Yeah. So you guys go through all this, kind of describe this to the client, have them sign everything, and the client's happy. We're done. They closed. We're
Right.
good. House
I got
is
my
mine.
keys, yeah.
Yes. But you guys still have work to do.
We do.
Because
Yes.
all the numbers that are on that paper then have to go get
To
sent.
the appropriate places, yeah.
Okay. So you guys are holding these funds and then, you guys are, holding these funds and then sending them to the appropriate places
That's right.
after the
Right.
closing is completed.
That's right.
So you guys have to keep track of that, and then you guys also have to record everything with the county in order to make it official with the county. Am I right there?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So
And
that when you go on Aries, you see, okay, yep, the person that we just closed is entitled.
Right.
okay.
Right.
How long does that so after a closing, how long does it take for those things to get recorded? What's
I'm
a
gonna tell you
typical
what, I hate COVID-19,
Yeah.
but the best thing that came out of COVID-19 was that we no longer have to physically go to these recorders' offices anymore.
Nice.
We used to physically have to go and stand and wait in the line to record our documents every day. And now we can electronically do them, which we should have been able to do
Right.
a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
But we've arrived, so I'm
Yeah.
just thankful for that we've arrived.
Yeah,
So it's pretty instantaneous.
Okay.
I mean, within a day, 2 days, it's on our end. It's been sent to the county.
Okay.
Now on the county's end.
Right. That's the
I
thing.
was just gonna ask.
Because I don't want to mislead people here if they start looking and say, well,
Yeah.
this should be on there. We're not in charge of that part. Our job is to get it there, and they acknowledge it and let us know that. So we've done our part.
Okay.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's going to show up there at the courthouse, because that's
Right, because
totally
now
Yeah.
you've
that's their
got
time frame, not ours.
their
Yeah,
time frame
yeah.
to deal with. So, I mean, I would say a good thing to tell your clients is if you don't see it in 2 weeks, then give me a call.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not too worried about that part. I was just wondering how
Right.
long
Yeah,
it took you
that's
guys, and it's
Good
nice.
question, though.
The COVID-19 affected all of us drastically, but one thing that a benefit that has come out of the situation, I'll say, is the emphasis on technology and being able to
Yes.
utilize it.
Agreed.
Right.
Like it's so helpful, and just things like that. I don't see what the point is of taking the time to drive to the office. Is that one also on the 7th floor?
Right.
Go in there, waiting in line,
Right.
physically handing somebody a paper that they will probably
know.
scan in somewhere anyways.
Absolutely.
So
it's all getting
why
scanned
would
in.
it not why don't you just send it to them?
Just
so
skip that whole process?
yeah, it's very beneficial to be able to do that. So that same day after the closing
Right.
table. So most of the times after the closing table, you guys can disperse the funds. Well, obviously it'll be on the bank and whatnot to disperse the funds, and send the papers to get recorded.
Right.
And then you guys are complete, right? Or is
then
that
we're complete on our end for
Okay.
that, unless anything comes up afterwards.
Okay.
Like with, a lien or something like that. And then we're back in that file trying to figure out, was it missed? Is it our responsibility? Is it the seller's responsibility? But yeah, typically after recording, we are done with that file.
okay? All right, not bad at all. So that would take care of that. But then title insurance is like that's whenever that
Right.
situation arises, you guys would have to reattend that whole file and get back into it.
Yeah.
But aside from that, you guys would be complete. The buyer would have the house recorded in their name. They'd be complete. Seller would have it out of their name, and they would
They're
have their
complete.
funds.
Yep.
And so everybody's pretty much done with the transaction with future protections in place as well.
Correct.
Correct.
That's
Beautiful.
exactly right.
Beautiful. Okay.
See, it sounds so easy.
Yeah.
When you describe it.
Yeah.
See, there's
but
more to my job than just taking agents out for.
for like
We do sometimes make him work.
yeah. No, so there's a lot that goes into it, but most people have zero clue what you guys do. Like
I agree,
absolute
the
zero
average
clue what you
homeowner
guys do.
doesn't even realize.
Yeah.
What does a title company do?
Yeah.
Why am I here? And that's a whole nother subject when we're talking about this. My next biggest thing is remote online notarizations. I can't wait until more lenders get on board with this because, like you mentioned with the recordings, why do we have to go up to the 7th floor, record something that's going to get electronically stored away anyways? Why do we still have to meet in a title company's closing room and go over those 80 documents? You guys are all using .loop.
Mhm.
You're sending it all for electronic signatures one day soon. I hope that all the lenders, feel comfortable enough to allow these remote online notarizations.
What's stopping that from happening?
Well, I mean, I'm not a bank, and I would be concerned too. You're lending $200,000,
Yeah.
of money, and you want to make sure that there's no fraud behind that.
Gotcha.
And
So
I get that, so I'm not, at all. I'm just saying, wow, it would be so nice if we didn't have that huge stack of papers. I've sat through all these classes for the RON, they're called RON notaries, remote online notarization. And I have my license now to be able to do them. And, so I'm all excited. And I asked the guy on the webinar, and I was like, can you give me like your list of approved lenders? And there were like 3.
oh my goodness.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, well, I'll be ready when the banks
Yep.
are.
Yep. Is that just in the state of Ohio?
Yeah. Well, Ohio and Michigan is where I'm licensed, so those
Okay.
were the 2 states that I was, checking to see what lenders
Yeah.
that we use, that use us rather, that
Yeah.
and there were like 3.
Okay. Yeah, and there's no reason to. Okay, so while we're on that subject, so what? So the purpose of that, you'd have to have a notary in person, and you have to have that stack of papers, and it has to be physically signed.
Well, so it's all uploaded into a computer. And so let's say you're buying a house and I'm your notary.
Okay.
You would be on like a web camera on your laptop. I'd be on a web camera on my laptop. Let's say we didn't know each other. You have to hold up your ID. It takes a picture of your ID front and back. So that's how I prove that you are who you say you are. Besides that, then there's 5 populated questions that come up. Have you ever lived at these 5 addresses?
Oh,
and you
okay.
have to pick,
It's kind of like the credit thing. Yeah.
Like, have you ever owned this car, that car that you pick? You know, so there's 5 questions that supposedly only you would know.
Verify authenticity of who you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Once we've gotten through all of that, then it's literally like how you do on .loop. Like you adopt the signature and then the electronic signature just pops up. We're going through all 80 pages.
Yeah.
But you're at your laptop at your home, wherever. I'm on my laptop at my home, wherever. And I'm notarizing what you're viewing.
That sounds so much more convenient than having to go to location and take care of it. Yeah. So that's
our future.
It is in place. It's just it's not widely accepted. Is that kind of where we're
You're
okay?
100% spot on. It's not widely accepted. Banks are a little worried that will open up more fraud, which I completely understand.
Everything is open. So technology is always a double-edged sword.
Correct.
And I absolutely love technology, and I hear a lot of people who absolutely hate technology. And it's really the person who's it's a different conversation, but we'll talk about guns and do guns kill people? Is it the people? Is it that?
Right. On our next podcast.
Yeah, on the next. Yeah, I don't want to get into that, but I'm just saying technology is in that same format where it's like, is technology good? Is it bad? It's who is using the technology and for what purposes. And for the best things that we find technology, there's always people that find the worst way to use it. And that's going to happen. But for convenience purposes, there's always better ways to make things as secure as possible. Even those questions that have to be asked. Did you own this kind of car? Did you live at this address? And they ask a couple more questions on there. I just had to do that not too long ago, and I was like, I don't remember, but and then I see my ad. I remember that. Okay, that verifies who I am. Okay, great. That's checking for that. It's putting a system of checks and balances so that it knows that it's you. There's no reason that it can't be implemented for other things as well, especially moving forward, especially right now where we're in an age where a lot of people do not want to go to any public places. They don't. They're trying to avoid it as much as possible. Completely understandable. Some other people just want to get out in public and are dying for an excuse to get out. Don't get me wrong. So there's a little bit of everything, but it'd be nice to have that option to be able to take care of it that way.
Where it really comes in handy is I don't know how many closings you've had like this, but let's say the seller, they own the property in Ohio, but they live in Florida or California or wherever.
Yeah.
It would make that
way
so
easier.
much easier.
Currently, we have to, reach out to notaries in those states through our, affiliates.
Right.
Where in this case, we'd still be one-on-one with these folks.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
and it would be able for
internet.
you to take care of that person instead of I have to have this stranger, which I mean, it's okay. Like they're that's what
But
they
you
do
never
is
know
they
what
go.
you're going to get. I mean, just because they have their notary doesn't mean
That's right.
Yeah. It would be nice for you and the service that you're providing to finish it through, though.
Right.
And instead of having to send somebody to go complete it, also, depending on how that person performs, that impression is still going to go back to you.
Absolutely.
Even if they don't leave a good impression.
They always used, a good, well-known notary, someone that has good reviews. We've got a website that we can go to and see, but you never know. Like we had one last month where the guy showed up and he was rude, and that's a reflection on us. But we didn't know this guy from Adam.
Yeah.
So it's
just one of the inequities.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, it happens. And again, I'm sure that we'll progress to a point where we can get that accepted a little bit more and used a little bit more. Yeah.
Yes.
It's the same with there's some things that happen that tend to speed some of these processes up.
Right.
But at least you could leave the final impression on them instead of having a stranger leave that final impression.
That's exactly right. That will be wonderful.
How many locations do you guys have? Physical locations.
Physical locations. We have our Toledo office, which is off of Sylvania and Talmadge, right by the mall.
Okay.
And then we have one in Maumee, off of Dussel in Indian Wood Circle.
Okay.
And then we have a Columbus office in the Dublin area.
Okay. All right. And so if let's say somebody had a scenario where they worked the 9 to 5 and they were unable to go to one of these offices, these same closings with these stacks of paper can be done elsewhere
right.
then?
At their home, at their place of business. I mean, I like to tell this story because it's funny. I did a closing for a truck driver, semi-truck driver, and he was driving cross country. And when he made it through Ohio, he was at one of those Ohio,
Turnpike.
on the turnpike.
280.
Right, yeah. And I met him literally. There was always like a Panera and stuff.
Yeah.
Like So we met inside the
nice.
rest
Made it
stop.
happen.
Made it happen.
Made it happen. Love
Closed
it.
him.
Love it.
In my career, through either in the mortgage side or working here at Liberty for Amy, somebody just asked me this the other day and said, what all different places you've been to? And I had to think about it a little bit, but there's not been too many I haven't, from funeral homes to, unfortunately, hospice,
Right.
to rehab centers, to employ anybody's employer many times.
Yeah, I've seen the inside of a lot of places.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
A lot of businesses.
Some's uncomfortable, hospitals, of course, and nursing homes.
Yeah.
But there's been not too many places I can't say that I haven't been to. It's
But how
Right.
incredible is that?
honestly a prison.
Yeah.
Jail. I mean,
Oh, we did have one in Stryker. So the lady,
yeah.
Oh, yeah?
I mean,
lady was
What?
refinancing her property, and her husband was in prison.
And you needed that
doesn't-
signature.
That doesn't extinguish his dower just
Yeah.
because he's locked
No.
up.
Oh my
No.
goodness. So how convenient is that you guys can go to these locations and make it happen outside of
Right.
just sitting in the office and
Now
expecting
imagine if we
somebody
could
to
do
come
those
in?
Ron closings and we
Yeah.
could just do them
Yeah,
from our
yeah.
laptops.
That would be awesome.
That would be
but
so
yeah.
nice.
when your motto is any place, any time,
You got to
We
do
make it
it.
happen.
we have
You
to
gotta
back
do
it. So we've done closings, all of us, including her as the president of the company. I say that purposely because that doesn't always happen. But closing, I had one not too long ago in Findlay at 8:00 on a Friday night. It's
Yeah.
not anything that I'm all excited to do. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's part of what we do.
But it's
But
a
we're
big
not gonna
deal
say
for
no.
the other end.
Yeah.
So for you guys, it's nice you've been in, let's say, a hospital. The person is in no condition to want to leave and to go to an office to sign, just to drive back and go back into the.
Right.
You guys being able to go to those locations, it's a really big deal. And it helps them out tremendously, so that they don't have to go out of their way to do these things.
We
Right.
kind of like to think that. So.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
was
you know,
super
it's-
helpful. We
it's
just had one
a
where
niche.
Amy Verhouse went to
Yep.
a hospital and closed up, and she was very thankful.
Yeah, that's super convenient.
She was in a car
100%.
accident, poor girl.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
she's fine now, but
Good,
she
good,
was, in the middle of selling her home.
Oh wow! Yeah,
So
yeah.
we made it happen and
Nice. Yeah.
smooth closing.
Yeah, it's like I said, instead of having to drive, I'm a big advocate for technology in any way that it can be used to kind
Me
of help
too.
people for convenience purposes.
Right.
So yeah, any way that can be pushed any further would be better. But when that's
Right.
not an option, you guys being able to drive and go to the location is a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
nice that you guys do that.
Yep.
And so I think we've hit on all the points of
I
a
think
we
of a
have.
title company and what it is you guys do. Is
Good
there-
questions, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
thank
very
you.
good.
Anything else that you want to tell anybody or you want to let people know before we get out of here? Like anything specific?
We look at each other. I'm like, do you?
Mm.
You've covered a lot, so
I tried to.
I think that
I
you've done a good
know.
job. Because I think a lot of the other things know that we're out and about, and customer service is everything to us, and that's why she has the motto when she said she started the company of creating places, any place, any time, and that's I think that's one of the biggest things we push.
Good.
And
Absolutely.
other than that, we're just good old folk that like to have fun and do our job.
Love it.
That's right.
Love
Work
it.
hard,
I've had
play
some
hard.
very fun closings with you. But
Yes.
some very fun
Well,
closings.
we
yeah.
do. We try, and Doug, myself, and Amy Verhouse, we like to do our own closings for
Yeah.
our own clients. We feel that's important for to be not only be in front of our clients, but to provide a good closing experience. So
And stay connected with our agents through
Right.
the process. Or I don't want to leave out our lenders. We have loan originators we work with who refer, refinancing. They're important to our life too. So I don't just want to specifically, just say
Yeah.
agents. Everyone in general that refers business to us is important
Yeah.
to us. But yeah, so we like to stay in touch. So that's one of the reasons myself and she said she does them as
Yeah.
as a principal owner, and to stay connected with everyone through the whole process. We think it's important.
I've done some closings that were and not with you guys with I'm not gonna say who that were very boring and very like sad and like and it's such
a good time.
It's the
like,
best time. It's like, yo, you're closing on a house. I'm like so excited and the mood is just like sign here, sign here, and I'm like and I've done some closings where you were like I'm laughing the whole time and it's just a wonderful experience. And
well, you want to do that and at times it's not like that because it may be someone who's selling a property that happens to be a family member.
The scenario may change.
So we gotta create that or roll with whatever's there, but still try to make it pleasant.
Yes.
But given the opportunity, you're gonna leave there having a good time.
That's right.
My cheeks were hurting. Yeah, I had a good time. Yeah.
Good.
That's what we like.
Yeah. No, awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on and talking a little bit. I know there's a lot of people that just don't understand exactly what you guys do, and I think we shed a little bit of light on what you guys are able to provide them and the value that you guys provide for people.
We appreciate that. And as I said before, not to repeat myself several times, but you really did a good job of
summing it all up.
Yeah, that's really good questions because none of us knew what we were going to do here.
We're winging it. There's no script here.
I know. I'm like, where are my notes?
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.